If you are looking into buying cheap and safe FIFA coins, look no further than footcoinshop.net. They have the fastest service, an incredible loyalty reward system, and the best prices around. Use my creator code Inception when you sign up for your account and get a 5% discount with your order. Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Guys, today we have Shapeshifters Team 3 tier list to do. This is super late at night because I took a nap during the daytime, woke up at night, because I was actually going to do this during the daytime, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to take a quick little nap, and then now it's 1 o'clock in the morning. You know the vibes. Okay, guys, so guys, if there's no cards in this tier list, a lot of the times it's because I don't actually review them and I don't know what they're like, and sometimes I forget cards because I don't go into the game and look at like each individual card, right? I just kind of like go on Footbin, search up the entire team, and search up the SBCs and stuff that I did, right? So just a very important thing to mention there. Dembele is broken, but that's okay because he's on the no idea category anyways. Anybody else broken? No. Sometimes when you download on Footbin and you go from icon to regular player, they do the combination of the two. It's really weird, but it is what it is. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the Acuna card. So Acuna by default will be an A tier category card. Acuna as an SBC is pretty decent value. Can't go wrong with this card, honestly. With the fact that he is a left-footed player, the 5-star weak foot, has the work rates, dribbling with the body type works out perfectly fine. Transition speed is good. The only thing that lacks on the card is height for certain capabilities. It's still a pretty solid SBC, right? Especially for the types of links that you can work with right now and in the future. The future would mainly be for Correa, because that's my guy right there. But yeah, the Acuna card is fair value, man. 140k, you can't go wrong with what the card offers in game, man. 140k is incredibly fair value. Very important to increase the pace to be as high as possible, as well as defense. But you just have a very good all-rounded card that can pretty much play in any of the side positions, playing the midfield or even in the CDM position, because he does feel a little bit more defensive than he does attacking, which honestly is perfectly fine, right? Depending on how your team is kind of formatted generally, right? We have Alexander-Arnold as the next one, who is going to join the A tier category. My only problem with Alexander-Arnold when they released this card was his price was absurd. Okay, let's just mention that because it's very important to mention. We have to mention these things because in the future they could continue doing this, right? Like the price is ridiculous for what the card offers in game. Okay, in my opinion, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's still a good card to use in game. Okay, for me personally, right now I'm actually using him in a 4-3-3 formation, right? The one that I reviewed just before this video. And I was using him as a right wing, and because he has some defensive capabilities while being a high medium work rated card, it's really fun to use a card like this in that area. It's not the price of the SBC, right? But in regards to in-game quality, it is a good card. You know, it's just one of those types of situations, because especially because of the market being so much lower for so many cards, that's like what you consider a lot of the times, right? It's like, it just depends on how much fodder and stuff that you get too. But yeah, the price of the SBC was ridiculous, but obviously in game the card was really nice. I actually enjoyed him for what it was, and like I said, the fact that he has some defensive capabilities, it adds to the card as the attacking oriented center mid, as a player playing in the right wing position for that 4-3-3 that could potentially come back as well. A lot of cool stuff, right? A lot of cool stuff. Like there's a lot of defensive capabilities that you can work with in those types of areas. Okay, next up, Ballack is going to be a card I put here. I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. I was actually taking a look at Ballack's card. Let's just take a look at this guy. So we could go to like the left mid version. Left mid? No, not left mid. Right back version. Because when I look at the right back version, right, the card, it looks decent, to be fair. Like it looks like it'd be a decent card. I just never really got my hands on him. But he does look decent though. I mean, take a look at this bad boy. Ain't like, he's not a lengthy, which obviously is a problem because regardless of your pace, like the lengthy is really nice, but he looks kind of sick on an anchor, because if you use a card like this in the center back position, I feel like he could be really good if he has good defensive animations. But like I said, I just don't know, right? I'm not going to put a card in a tier list and have no idea what he's like. It's not going to be a thing I do. Camavinga, easy S tier. From this team, I think Camavinga is going to be the best player. Yeah, and Thierry Henry is probably gonna be after that. But Camavinga, definitely a definite S tier card. If you guys are thinking about doing the upgrade, I think he's still out. I think he's still out. If this card is still out before the new team comes out, I would say you should make sure that you do it. In the review, I even told you guys, I don't know what you're waiting for if you still haven't done the SBC yet, because Camavinga is a very good card in game because he has all the right things, right? Like they formatted him in a way where on a lengthy with perfect pace, like that alone is insane, right? But then he's high, then he's a lean body type, then his dribbling's in the 90s, then he has shooting, his long shots, bro. Oh my goodness. Use a card like this on that inverted instruction for that 4 and 2 and 2 that I reviewed most recently. Oh, this card is going to be nuts in that area. But yeah, generally speaking, playing as a left back, playing as a potential CDM as well. Honestly, if you use him as a CDM, he'd be great too. It's a really good card. Like, I don't know why people wouldn't do the card, to be honest. Like, I still have to do him on my review account, and I shouldn't forget, because it's gonna be very important to do that kind of stuff for this card. Okay, so really good stuff there. Campbell, they actually made him pretty usable, to be fair. They did make him pretty usable. He actually is not that horrible to work with in game, but obviously it's a card that I don't see people using that much. It will, for the most part, be a card that people use for fodder. I've already seen him used for fodder plenty of times. The only people that would use a card like this are like past and present, like Arsenal squad builder or something like that, right? It's just not really a card that people will use continuously in the future. So with a card like that, I'm actually going to add him into the C tier category because, like I said, it is a usable card. I did his review, but it's, you know, at the end of the day, the body type and stuff, like it's some things throw you off, right? But it is a usable card, to be fair. Enesiri, I have no idea. João Felix. So João Felix, right? I need to explain this because people are going to look at this and be like, oh, this and that. Let me explain something about João Felix's card, okay? So this card, you're not supposed to use as an actual attacker, okay? The position changes that he has is more so for putting him in positions that kind of make the most sense for him. So let's just say, for instance, I were to use João Felix in my team. For me personally, it would have to be a card that I would use in the actual midfield position. So if I were to give this card, you know, a Sentinel chemistry style, for instance, if I were to give him a Sentinel chemistry style and I boost his defense and I boost his physical, and I specifically use him as the attacking oriented center mid, it's a really good card. In the main attacking positions up top, his dribbling is really weirdly formatted, right? So obviously you can use him up top in the main attacking positions 100%, but it doesn't feel like a card that belongs there, right? It's a card that belongs specifically as that attacking oriented center mid in a 4-3-2-1, center mid in like a 4-2-2, 4-3-3 even, right? Because he's a taller player at 5'11 with a unique body type. But when you give him that Sentinel, you get the interceptions and stuff. You can even give this card an anchor, right? And still make him a really well-rounded midfielder, right? So he's one of those types of cards that, even though he's 5-star, I want to add him into the S tier, A tier. Like, he's a combination of the two. Like, he's a super high tier A and a low tier S. But I'll put him in the S tier for now. But he's on the lower side of the S tier, right? Like lower side for sure. Because that's the way that you have to play the card, right? Like, I'm not comparing João Felix as an attacker to Alexander-Arnold as an attacker, because Alexander-Arnold as an actual attacker, a striker, center mid, and all that kind of stuff, you have to use in like specific ways, right? But I don't mind doing this a little bit, because obviously the 5-star capability is a really big deal to work with. Being able to shoot with your weak foot almost just as well as your strong foot is, you know, it's kind of crazy. Okay, Gavi, I'm gonna personal preference this B tier. I didn't like the card that much. Okay, I didn't like him that much. For me personally, there's so many right backs that I'd rather use from Liga Santander. Like, so many. Like Molina's Atletico Madrid card. He's Atletico Madrid? Yeah, Molina. Like, I would rather use that card. I've used Molina so much, right? 25k for this guy, high work rates. For me, this card is like fantastic. I like using this card a whole lot, and I would rather much use him over Gavi, right? Like, Molina is a card I would put at the A tier, right? So that's like the comparison that I would personally make. But yeah, I don't know, Gavi is decent, but like, he just didn't really hit for me, right? Like, especially in this game, you guys need to understand, when it comes to defenders, like, I'm super thing with defenders now, man, because like, people play in certain ways, and like if they're not at least A tier, like forget about it, dude. People play like, you know. So for me personally, definitely needs to be like that. Thierry Henry, easy S tier card. I think they did a pretty good job with the card. Definitely still doesn't perform as well as like an Mbappe, which obviously in the future maybe they do, obviously, with the card. But yeah, he was great, man. I liked him a lot. I think his finishing came off really nicely. I liked being able to use both feet. I think that was like a really huge feature for me, because obviously with Thierry Henry, he never really had a card that was like that crazy to use in the meta of the gameplay. But this card is significantly better. Like, I liked his attacking AI. The finishing came off nicely. And he actually felt usable now because of his dribbling not being completely horrible in regards to the balance department, because the balance would always throw him off completely because of the 6'2" high and average body type. Definitely not a 9 million coin card, I will say. He's definitely not that much. But if you do end up using this card in your team, he is going to be very solid. What's actually a huge plus to work with Thierry Henry as well, that is an underrated thing that people don't look at as much, is defensive capabilities, right? So let's say, for instance, if I decided to use this card, you know, as my attacking oriented center mid or something like that, I actually could do that with him, right? If I were to give him like that sentinel chemistry style, to boost those defensive stats even a little bit, like just to give him a little bit of extra interceptions, a little bit of extra physicality. He is working with very good all-round stats everywhere else, while being a five-star player. That's a left-footed dude, right? So many cool things you can work with if you're like talking about like the maximum meta of the game, right? If you don't want to use him up top because of the left stick on the card with the high and average body type, but he compensates for it with the skill moves and whatnot, right? But yeah, pretty decent card. Really liked using him for sure. Klosterman, I have a feeling Klosterman's an absolute monster. The only reason why I haven't tried all these cards, guys, is because I don't play this game consistently, because a lot of these defenders would easily be in the team if I, you know. But Klosterman, obviously the links are fantastic. The thing about Klosterman is that he needed to be added into the game. I just noticed I didn't add one of the cards here. It was Vardio. I'm going to see if I can add him afterwards. But yeah, the thing about Klosterman's card is that Klosterman before had really good animation choices, right? Like when I used to use a card back in the day, this card does look ridiculous, to be honest. Like, I feel like he'd be an absolute monster in game. I'm not 100% sure, but he has all the right stuff, right? The dribbling stats, the pace on a lengthy defense, the physical, it's all looking really nice. So it's probably going to be a really, really good card. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was like an S tier card, to be honest with you, but I just never really tried him out myself. Lauritsen, you know, I don't mind adding Lauritsen into, I would say, like A tier, B tier, like low tier, A tier, you know, like that type of area. B tier, high tier, like something like that for this card, because I don't think it's a card people are going to use for a long period of time. Because the thing about Lauritsen, right, is that with this card, to be fair, it's a pretty decent card to use in game. He's actually not bad whatsoever. But I just don't see people using him for that long, right? Like, Gavi is a personal thing of mine where I just don't really use him that much. So the only reason why I'll put Lauritsen in the B tier, even though he's a premium card, is because I don't see a lot of people using him. It's one of those types of situations, right? Like, because at this point in the game, if you play in the higher tier divisions, guys, most people are going to get players that either give you really good links. For instance, like Gigi Buffon was a good card that actually performs really well in game, and he's going to provide you good links with some of the Italian players and all that kind of stuff. With Lauritsen, it's more so if you have like Sorloth in your team, if you have Holland, you want to build that sort of concept around them. You have some Eredivisie squads, but that's only if you go into that direction, right? So, like I said, B tier and up are cards that people like. B tier, I can see them being used in the top tier divisions. Like A tier and up, I'll definitely see them. It's one of those types of situations. Okay, so yeah, Lauritsen he was decent though. I actually liked him. He was actually pretty nice. Okay, Lloris, S tier. Love this card. Love this card. Definitely gonna add him there. Yeah, João Felix, I might. No, João Felix. Oh, João Felix will leave in the low S tier because of the type of player that he is. The 5-star. It's the 5-star weak foot that's really pulling him up there. Because if it wasn't for the 5-star weak foot, I'd put him over here. But still. Yeah, so João Felix, or excuse me, Hugo Lloris, definitely 100% one of the best CDMs I've used in the game. Like, no question about it. I thought this card was absolutely brilliant. And for obvious reasons, too, right? You give this card the Shadow Chemistry Style, 99 acceleration, 99 for sprint speed. Defensive stats are there. It's just a very solid card to use in those general positions. Like, for me, a card like this, if I'm playing in that new 4-3-3 that I showed you guys, if this guy's played over on that left-hand side, it would be really sick to have a really good balance of having at least one of the people being a good defensive-oriented player, right? 4-1-2-2. I think I was using him mainly in the 4-1-2-2 for that formation video, and he was brilliant. Like, he was honestly so good. Positioning was fantastic. Defensive animations were fantastic. This guy is a CDM from a goalkeeper, and he plays better than most of the CDMs in the game, right? So definitely an S-tier category card. If you want to use him specifically in that CDM role, right? Like, the only thing that's a little bit off is finishing for like full meta, but like that's like being super nitpicky because that's not the role of the card, right? This Luis Figo I didn't use. This Luis Figo I did. I'll put him at the A tier, but it's a low tier A tier in my opinion. With Luis Figo, it's one of those types of situations where the card is definitely better than the previous versions, right? The previous versions, fodder, complete garbage in my opinion, right? This card is not complete garbage. It's actually a usable version of him. In my opinion, here's what I'll say about Luis Figo, okay? Giving him an engine chemistry style to boost the pace, to boost the dribbling, to boost the passing, it's nice, but for his card, it almost feels irrelevant, right? To make him an explosive player. For a card like this, honestly, not gonna lie, might as well just give him like a Hawk chemistry style, boost the physical, boost the shooting, boost the pace. For me personally, okay, I'm just gonna explain this for me. If I have to work with Figo at a 5'11 height, average body type, balance at an 86 with this inconsistent gameplay, for me personally, it would throw me off. Like, this is a Portuguese player that I absolutely adore, right? But with Figo, that body type, it just really messes with the card a lot. You know what I'm saying? It really does. But like I said, with dribbling being a certain way in this year's game, that's me being nitpicky because I need left stick. You know what I'm saying? But with this card on a controlled with a Hawk chemistry style, way more usable to use, 100%. Like, the previous versions just were not it whatsoever. But this card, way better to use, 100%. Maguire gonna add into the A tier category as well. Maguire they did a good job with, because as a physical type striker, he has all the right things to be pretty decent in the game, right? So 176k for the card, not too crazy expensive for what he offers in game. EA understands that this is not a card that you're going to use to left stick with him, right? You're going to use him to use lengthy out of the card, right? So obviously providing him with the Hawk chemistry style, right, to boost the physicality, the pace, the shooting as much as possible, you know, could be an ideal situation for people that are looking into the physical stuff a little bit more. But they formatted this card in a certain way where it's actually super nice that you can give him an engine because of the dribbling boost in the card. The engine is going to be the preferable choice for, I think, most people regardless, because his physicals are already in a pretty decent area. But for people who are just art trigger merchants, I could see them just giving him a Hawk, right? Just depending on the situation of how they end up using him. But yeah, a usable version of Maguire for sure. Obviously, he would be a B tier if he didn't have the 5-star skills, but with the 5-star skills, it brings him up to the lower tier A, right? The left stick is the only thing that you have to work with a lot because he is very sloppy on that left stick, of course, at 6'4", high and stocky body type, but you guys know how lengthy players are in this game. They're pretty fast to kind of work with in those attacking areas. Martinez will add into the A tier as well. Martinez is a type of card where you have to use them, again, like most of the cards in this game, in a very specific way, because some people were comparing this card, right, as an actual attacker compared to another attacker. In my opinion, that's not the way that you're going to want to use the card, okay? For me personally, I have to provide this card a shadow chemistry style and then use them in the center mid position, okay? So if I'm playing this new 4-3-3 that I recently reviewed, the video before this one, this is a card that I would start off in the right wing, right mid position, give him a shadow chemistry style because pace for me is just like crazy. It's either a shadow or I give him an anchor, right? Like an anchor would still be okay too, because obviously you still give him good pace. But even if it's like little fraction, sometimes it makes that little bit of a difference for me. It just depends, you know, but an anchor is fine too. But using him specifically in that role is going to make the most sense, especially for that 4-3-3, because it's unbalanced with the high work rates, pushing forward, coming back, being a left-footed player, having the shooting capabilities, the dribbling, the 5-star skills. It was a nice SPC. Like, the price of the card is perfectly fine for what he offers in game. Not crazy top tier meta, but still a pretty decent card to get regardless. Onuachu, gonna be an A tier category card as well. Guys, I always tell you guys in the review videos, go for S tier center backs, because in this game, oh my goodness. Listen, with this card, honestly, the dislikes come mostly from the fact that he's not a premium. That's where most of it comes from. If he was a premium, the dislikes would not exist, okay? This card in game as a center back is actually pretty decent because he's a tall player that has crazy reach on his tackles. Like, his tackles work out really nicely because of how tall he is. There's so many different situations where I'm using this card where that reach is insane. For me personally, if I were to play like this 4-3-3 that I mentioned to you guys, I wouldn't want to use this card just because I need players that feel fast, right? So in the center back position, like, I need the full meta cards. It just needs to happen. Because the only thing about this card that's off is, even if you give him a shadow chemistry style, it's just the pace parts, because it works hand in hand with the high and average body type at a 6'7". So sometimes that initial acceleration, especially against attackers that just kind of like fly past you, that part is the one thing that'll annoy you from time to time, right? And then obviously switching to him and then that quick transition sometimes is a little bit weird. But for 50k, it was nice, but they should have made him a premium. A premium definitely would have been really cool for the card. So it's understandable that the dislikes come from where they come from, right? Okay, next up is going to be Paul Pogba, definite S tier category card as a physical type striker. He's one of the best physical type strikers I've used this year, 100%. Like, he is really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed using him. You know, if you play him in the role of that 3-5-2 that I reviewed from Alex B, where he has his right striker on drift wide, get in behind, and I think stay forward, a card like Paul Pogba will be really, really good in that role, right? Very good physical type striker. I really don't have much to say about him. You know what's really cool is you could actually provide this card the engine chemistry style, and he would still be pretty decent if you really care about improving the dribbling a little bit more. But listen, I always tell you guys this, man, like, in this game, it's all about the lengthy for the most part. You can see that some people are giving him the engine, right? But the lengthy to make these cards significantly faster, like, you just really notice that on so many different occasions, right? To be able to score with a lot of physical presence. So yeah, the card was definitely really nice. They gave him all the right traits as well to be a really solid card to work with. Excuse me. But yeah, as a physical type striker, he is definite S tier material. Definitely liked him a lot. Just to do this really quickly, Ruslan here. This card here. Kyle Walker B tier because he's too small. Too small in that. Pepe C tier as well. Not a card that I see people using in the future, honestly. And then Tapsoba I'll put in the B tier. Tapsoba was a little bit weird. He was a little bit weird. It's weird because, like, goalkeepers, A tier, like, I have to be like at least somewhat comfortable with you. Like, I would say, I don't even know, because Van der Sar would be an S tier. It would be an A tier for me. I don't know. Goalkeepers are really weird in this game. Like, they're really weird. Like, really, really weird. Yeah. Okay, so I'm perfectly fine with this tier list. The only thing that I would potentially change is João Felix is like an in-between of an S and A. Like, putting him in an S tier is a little bit too much. I know he's a 5-star player. It's a little bit too much to put him in the S tier, but he's like an SA tier. So I don't mind putting him at the end of the S tier. But the 4 over here, so this cutoff here, that's definite S tier. That's definite A tier. B tier, I'm totally cool with. The Gavi thing is a personal thing of mine. I wasn't really that big of a fan of his. And then the rest of the cards I never really used myself. So guys, I know that some people just want me to lie and just put players in certain positions, but I can't say that if I never tried out the card, right? It's just kind of dumb to do that. So but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video today. That's the tier list for the 3rd team. Hopefully you guys had a good one. I'll catch you guys for the next video. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys. Okay, so the 2 cards that I forgot to add from the top of my head were 2 cards that I added here. So Booth, I have no idea what he's like. I will say I heard really good things about Booth. People say that they like him a lot, so, you know, he could be a really nice card. But the other card that I forgot to add was Gvardiol's card. Gvardiol or Vardiol? I think it's Gvardiol. Where is he? I'm blind. There he is. Gvardiol is an A tier card. Yeah, he's an A tier card. Definitely enjoyed using him a lot. I think he's a very, very solid card. Honestly, if you can get the links between him and Klosterman, that would be a pretty decent link up to work with. Because, listen, by default, if you were to use this card and he is a player that you're starting off in the center mid CDM position, but then you rotate him over to the left-hand side in most places, it will be really nice to work with, right? So for me, with this card on a lengthy for a hawk, or it's not a hawk, an anchor, giving him a lengthy on an anchor to be used as a center mid in that left center mid position would be great. Left CDM, left center back in a 3-back formation, switching to a 4-back, using him as like as a left center back would be fine too. Like, there's a lot of ways you can use this card. So he's definitely really nice. Definitely liked him a lot. The 5-star weak foot's a huge plus to work with too. So he definitely gets added into the A tier category as well. So yeah, from this tier list, the first 4 from the S tier guarantees. João Felix, I can argue, into the A tier top tier. The 5-star really pushes him up to the S tier because of the type of player that he is, obviously. But obviously still very, very good to use. But this is like, these 4 are like undisputed S tiers. A tiers I'm totally okay with. B tiers I'm totally okay with personally. C tiers as well. And then the no ideas as well. Yeah, I'm okay with this. Okay, guys, thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.